I haven't been giving my Wii U enough love lately. The layer of dust on it was, quite frankly, a bit embarrassing. So to apologize, I decided to look at my collection and play a game. I picked Game Party Champions. I figured it would be an updated take on the Wii game Carnival games, which I reviewed nearly 2 years ago. I enjoyed that game, so an updated version on more powerful hardware should be a perfect match, right? Right? In Game Party Champions, there are 8 events, all spread out through a story mode, in which you reportedly play as the laziest kid you know. Wow, they know me so well. You choose between a small selection of avatars before seeing a scene in which the narrator is speaking to the character you just selected, who is also lounging on a couch. You are essentially forced into a tournament at a nearby arcade, because God forbid you spend all day on the couch. Although the game has 8 total games, you only start with 4 of them: air hockey, table tennis, football, and basketball. Basically, you can swap between these games at will, but in order to mark them as completed, you must defeat 5 opponents, with the 5th being a so-called boss. Prior to the game started, you are given a versus screen, which really doesn't add anything to the game since only the bosses are given any sort of real personality. Anyway, once you finish all 4 of these games, you move on to the next area, where you get the second set of games: baseball, mini golf, skee ball, and a water gun course. Defeat all of these opponents to clear each of these games, and then you move on to the finals, where you need to play all 8 games yet again. This wouldn't normally be a problem, but sadly, the games just aren't interesting to play. That's because of the controls. Well, primarily. Let's talk about each game individually, if just for a short bit. Air hockey is probably one of the more interactive games. You use the Wii U gamepad screen to move the thingy around that hits the puck. The faster you swipe the pad, the harder you strike the puck. By pressing on the pad, you can attempt to trap the puck under the mallet, which, if I'm being honest, is an exercise in futility. See, the puck isn't shown on the gamepad, so you're literally just going to be guessing on where the puck is going to be when you attempt to trap it. So it's nearly impossible to even bother trying. At least the game is somewhat functional though. The first player to reach 7 points wins. Also, at the start of the story mode, you are given a tutorial for this to understand how to play, so you do get an idea on how the controls of the game works. And the thing is, all of the games use the Wii U gamepad to play them, with no input from the Wiimote at all. This could have worked well if implemented correctly, I suppose, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The second game is ping pong, or table tennis if you prefer. You swipe your finger or the stylus on the gamepad to serve and hit the ball. That's it. I didn't really have a lot of success hitting the ball with any sort of power. The only thing you seem to control is the direction the ball travels when struck. The opponents really aren't all that difficult, and you can't really put any real spin on the ball. Also, if you manage to have the ball bounce off of the table to the point where the opponent should be reaching for it to avoid losing a point, well, they'll just let it fall out of bounds and give you the point. It makes the game feel completely lifeless. I've watched friends that are good at ping pong play, and it gets fast and chaotic. This is far from that. Next is football. This functions as a QB throwing contest. There are several modifications, from simply needing to throw the ball into one of the circles to actually striking one of the moving receiver plates. In order to play this, you hold the gamepad sideways and move it around to change the trajectory of the ball, then swipe to throw. To win these events, you just need to reach a certain score threshold, so having an opponent seems kinda dumb. These events are also incredibly easy if you just stick to one side of the playfield and throw to the receivers, ignoring the holes. Basketball functions similarly, as it's just a free throw shooting contest. Just like football, you use the gamepad to adjust the throwing angle and swipe to shoot. Again, you just aim for the score shown, which is simple enough. Sadly, I had more fun aiming out of bounds and smacking the bystanders in the noggin with errant throws. The baseball game acts as a home run derby, and is possibly the easiest game in the collection. Stand there, swipe the screen when the ball crosses the plate, and earn the points for the poster that the ball lands on. The score goals for these are pathetic, with only 2 runs needed at the start. The scoreboard shows outs, but don't fret. Getting 3 outs doesn't stop the game. There's also a moving home run banner, which nets you 4 runs if you can time your hit well enough, which really isn't that hard to do. Overall, like the rest of the games, baseball is functional but mundane. It almost reminds me of a worse-off version of the old Candy Stand Home Run Derby web game. Mini golf might be the hardest event in the game. To win, you just need to sink the ball in less than par. This is easier said than done. Again, you move the gamepad to change your shot angle and swipe in order to hit the ball. There are some challenging holes though, and similarly to ping pong, trying to get any real power on your swings is kind of a futile affair. This makes getting the ball to climb a hill without it falling back down to you a nightmare to perform. At least the game does give you a full 18 holes to play if you do choose the free play mode. At least, I think there's 18 holes. I can't say that I stuck around long enough to find out. The water gun event has you hold the gamepad up to the screen, and you move it around to adjust the aiming reticule shown. The goal here is to get enough points by taking down the criminals in the Wild West setting, or by putting out fires. Oddly, the water spray seems to land above the center of the target, so that's kind of annoying to deal with, but otherwise, the game plays decently enough. But again, it's just not very interesting. I should also note that this is the only game in the collection in which you don't need to swipe the screen, as you use the shoulder triggers to engage the water spray, so I guess it gets a bonus point for that. Finally, we come to Skee Ball, or Skill Ball as the game puts it, probably due to licensing issues I suppose. It's your standard game of Skee Ball. You get about 10 balls, and you roll them up a ramp in the hopes of the balls landing in the higher holes for more points. I love Skee Ball in real life. This version is just frustrating. For one, it's easy enough to get the 50-point holes since you just need to swipe straight up on the gamepad. The problem lies when you reach the finals. The score totals sought are increased, which wouldn't be so bad if the 100-point holes were obtainable. In Game Party Champions, though, this doesn't seem to be the case. You can't move the gamepad to alter the trajectory of your roll like in some of the other games. Instead, you just need to swipe at an angle. The problem lies in the border of the gamepad screen. You can't get enough of an angle to actually aim towards that 100-point hole. Instead, your finger or stylus will bounce off the side of the screen, and the ball will normally fall back to the lowest hole for a measly 10 points. It's not an ideal way to play Skee Ball. So that's how Game Party Champions works. Load a game and for the most part just swipe endlessly on the gamepad screen. Dare I say that this might have been a game in which the Wiimote's motion controls should have played a bigger part in gameplay? I'm a pretty known critic of the motion controls, but some games they do tend to work fairly well, and this could have been one of them. Instead, as it stands, every game boils down to boring, repetitive movements with a serious lack of fun. You might be wondering how the multiplayer works. What multiplayer? Okay, seriously, there is one mode, Party Mode, in which you are taken to a board game. Each player takes turns to spin a wheel, and move ahead spaces to land on various games. If that player can reach the score goal within the time limit, great. If not, well then, not so great. So no, there's no head-to-head option here at all. It's a huge wasted opportunity. It makes multiplayer mode kind of dumb to even waste your time on. At least the graphics look somewhat decent, even if all the kids shown are all kind of similar looking. Also, this is supposed to take place during summer break. So why are so many people wearing coats? Is the AC really cranked up that much in the arcades? Also, some of the looks on the bystanders' faces during the winning poses are amazing to behold. Game Party Champions has a lot of potential, but it's all wasted. The games are boring to play, there's a serious lack of multiplayer competition, and the controls are lackluster to say the least. The game also takes a long time to save and load the next round, so playing each event gets dragged out even longer. Feel free to pass this one on and stick with the Carnival games on the original Wii. At least that game was fun. Final score? 3 out of 7. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.